Hi, I'm Annabelle Cooper. Welcome to the WORLDwrite Newsreel. Today's programme looks at the role of the G8 in relation to the development needs of our peers in Africa. Lots of people are, in fact, looking to the G8 to solve the problems facing poor countries. Over to our reporter on the ground, Rinku Inusa, at the latest rally, demanding that the G8 keep their promises.
My name's Rinku Inusa, reporting for WORLDwrite News. Today I'm at the World Can't Wait rally, asking why people are here and what they think.
Save the Children is here because we think that the world can't wait any longer and we need the G8 leaders to keep their promises. We can show how many people are here, how many people care about this, and they can't just make promises any longer. 2005 was great, they made lots of promises, they haven't kept them, so this year we want them to keep them. Obviously we believe in children's rights, we think that children should be treated equally, so we wouldn't treat them like children because we treat children and adults exactly the same. I think everyone should have the opportunity to get everything, but what we've got to focus on is the basic needs and the fact that 800 children are dying every day due to lack of being able to afford basic services like healthcare, like water, like food. You know, those are the reasons that we're doing it. This is why we're here, that's what we're talking about. Let's focus on what really matters for children in Africa.
Yeah, the significance of us being here today is to make sure that Tony Blair heads off to the G8 summit in Germany next week, with the knowledge that there are thousands and millions of people in the UK who want him to represent us and make sure that our concerns for international development and for some of the world's poorest people go with him, and he makes sure that those concerns are on the G8 agenda. We at WORLDwrite think that the G8 can do a lot, really. One decision made in that conference room during that G8 summit to help those people who don't have safe water could help billions of people and stop people dying. You start with basic amenities, absolutely, and then you move on from there. You know, if one village doesn't have a tap, for example, there isn't a single tap or a well, then just providing that tap is a start. And once we have that tap in that village, then we can move on to 2 taps, 3 taps to 4. Our end goal is to live in a world where every single person has access to safe water and basic sanitation.
As you'd expect from an event like today, many people are wearing the Drop the Debt badge, which has become a synonymous symbol with an event like this. What people don't seem to realise is the strings attached behind debt cancellation. People don't realise that in the developing world, borrowing has become an essential prerequisite to create infrastructure and growth.
This little NGO rally clearly raises several questions. Should we be looking to the G8 to solve problems in the developing world? To what extent does this approach yet again marginalise our peers in poor countries, especially Africa, the very people that everyone claims to care so much about? To answer these questions and more, WORLDwrite arranged a special screening of the film Damned by Debt Relief. This documentary examines what the debt relief deal struck by the G8 last time they met at Glen Eagles in 2005 really means for recipients on the ground in Ghana, West Africa. Here's a glimpse of the film.
What has the G8 done? The G8 has said that they are going to wipe off 100% of our debts. What they're telling us is that you owe us so much. We are not going to take the money from you. You generate the money yourself. Don't pay it to us, keep it. But we are going to tell you how to invest that kind of money. It's incredible. Nobody would accept that anywhere in the world.
Thank you, Bob Gordon. Thank you, Bono, and thank you, Life 8 and G8.
We have 2 of these. We are given
for 27,000 people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony Blair.
People need industries for the community. They need concrete houses.
Debt relief and the aid grants can only help to take us back to zero.
After almost 20 years of accepting bank and fund terms, the country is bankrupt.
We've asked the studio audience and guest experts to comment on the film and provide their thoughts and questions on the latest G8 thinking.
The thing that struck me the most watching Damned by Debt Relief, the first thing that struck me and still sticks with me, is how rare it is to actually see Africans talking about these issues, and let alone the kind of intelligent and incisive criticism that you can see in the film. One of the most important kind of issues around debt relief is the way in which debt relief is often promoted in terms of kind of liberating African countries from the burden of debt, it actually is restricting African choices, because when the debt is cancelled, part of that deal for debt relief is also putting Western representatives of IFIs, representatives of the mega NGOs on spending committees. And so essentially what you're having is that the policy instruments and the actual policy making in the third world is literally being annexed and taken over by international institutions and by Western governments. Those representatives are obviously not they're not in any kind of democratic relationship with the people who are supposedly meant to be benefiting from their initiatives. And so it's unsurprising that the more distant and remote that the content of development becomes, the more it's taken away out of African people's hands, the way the aspirations become less and less. So it's hardly surprising that the more that development is taken over by outside institutions, the more that poverty becomes normalized, the more that macro infrastructural projects are off the agenda, the more that national development is off the agenda, the more that it's about normalizing poverty, essentially, precisely because the people who are meant to benefit are the ones who are not setting the agenda.
Ghana's economy has been growing consistently for the past 10 years and longer. Last year, Ghana's economy grew by over 6.5%. Now, the Ghanaian government realised that to reach their aspirations of a 8.5% growth in the coming years, they need considerable investment in their infrastructure. They need new power plants, new roads, all sorts of infrastructural investments. And the Ghanaian government estimate that this will cost them $2 billion this year alone. In 2004, Ghana received $1.4 billion in development aid, so that all sounds fine. But $1.3 billion of that development aid came in the form of debt relief. It's not cash, and it can't be used to build roads, it can't be used to build power stations. But with the NGO's obsession with demanding the G8 keep their promises, they get a little confused about what's actually taking place. DFID, the Department for International Development in the UK, have responded to ActionAid's criticisms on this. But what they've said is that Ghana does benefit from this debt relief. They benefit in the form of slightly smaller interest payments over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So they've recorded the present value of this debt relief. Now this is a accounting term basically, and it's accounting trickery, the way they've measured it. But the simplest way to understand it, what they've done is they've said with the OECD, we'll imagine we take all these interest payments over the next 30 years and take it to a notional bank, and we'll calculate how much this bank would be prepared to lend Ghana on the basis of all this future savings. And so the figure that they pulled out of the air in 2004 is 1.3 billion. However, the Ghanaian government have gone to Citigroup, a Wall Street investment bank, and they've said, we've got all these savings over the next 20, 30 years. Can we borrow money? And so Ghana is going to be the first country that's gone through the whole HIPEC initiative to go to the international credit markets and say, we want to borrow some money. This is where it really gets damning, is Ghana is now in the situation of being on the bad books of both the NGOs and the donor governments. The NGOs are saying, well, this is terrible. First of all, it's immoral that developing countries should have debt at all. They shouldn't be allowed to pay money to rich countries and bankers. And also, you can't really trust developing countries with this amount of capital. Part of the reason for debt relief to begin with was the idea that all this debt was taken on board by corrupt officials and wasted on prestige projects and such and such. And so NGOs on the one hand are saying this is problematic. Now, on the other side, you've got donor governments who are saying this is a real problem again, because they're saying we've given you all this debt relief and you're behaving like ungrateful children and going out and getting into new debt again. You're taking us for a free ride. And this is something that's discussed or will be discussed in the G8 conference. One of the big things on the agenda is responsible government, which will be monitored by G8 countries.